all this too. Which we didn't have anyone in Zoom yesterday, did we? What's going on? I don't know. It's a weird year. All right. So today we are actually going to start going over some notes. I know that doesn't sound fun, but it's actually going to be okay. We're going to actually watch some videos too, so it's not that big of a deal. Why is no one getting on for this class? I don't understand. Makes no sense. All right, so, and I haven't necessarily decided what y'all are going to do tomorrow, considering everyone's online. Y'all probably just work on some Canvas assignments. So it won't be hard though, and it won't be long, and it won't be that big of a deal. So we're gonna watch some videos first, actually, and then we are going to go over the 1.01 notes. Usually, how I run business law is I print out the notes for everybody, and then there's fill in the blank notes, and they're really not that hard to do. Trust me, I do have hard notes if you ever want to do that. But I don't like using those usually unless someone acts like a jerk. Anybody know Dixon Williams? Yeah, they had long notes a lot, solely because of him. Yeah. It was a good time though. I enjoyed that. It was one of my favorite business law classes, even though they forced me to give them long notes. But either way, yeah, most of the time the notes are pretty short. Now you're just going to do them online, so you can pull out your device, you can go get into the computer. It's totally up to you, and you can work on the notes from there. And then I'll have a link to submit them. I'm not going to get you to turn them in all the time. This is how I do regular notes with business law. Occasionally, I say hand in your notes. If I notice no one's paying attention, people are on the phones constantly, then I say go turn them in, and then I usually catch people in the act. Don't send them to each other. I see that. I can access y'all's emails. I don't know if y'all know that. Big brother, cool stuff. I can access your files. I can see who the owner of the files was. Don't make me do that. It's really annoying. I mean, it's not hard. I literally can just go to the files and I click on student drives, and then I can go through each student drive and I can see everything you've got in your files. So don't cheat. Don't do any of that. It's very easy for me to find out. But I don't want to do that. And I don't want to have to punish you with making you write this long thing. I usually try to handle things internally, so I try not to write people up. But don't make if you get written up by me, then you've done something really bad. Because I've written up 3 people in the span of 4 years, or this is year 4, so you got to do a lot. It was in this room that the kid I wrote up the first kid. He broke a pencil and he shoved it into the CD drive of the computer. So I had no choice. He gave me no choice in that instance because my computer was destroyed. So, and I guess he thought I wouldn't notice, but the CD drive was half in and out, and if you pressed it, it would go in and out until you forced it to stop. So it just kept going neat, 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 and I literally walked up on it doing that, going neat, neat, neat. I don't know. What you gonna do? So, and then that kid almost got written up again the next year because he used the tinfoil wrapper for a gum wrapper, and if you put that in the USB port in the right way, it'll turn off the computer. And he did that too. But thankfully, I didn't write him up for that one. I just called home for that one. But y'all probably know who it is, but I won't say his name. He's a good kid for the most part until he decides to start destroying computers. Do we have anyone wanting to join our Zoom? No. Am I doing something wrong? Can someone go see if they can access the Zoom for this class real quick?
You're gonna do Charter, right?
Uh-huh.
You got in this class, he's not making him shit.
Let me just email Trotta real quick. I'll just send him the link if he wants to get in. If he doesn't, that's okay too. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of weird because now, like, that's 2 days in a row no one's joined. Did everyone complete that form? Did I tell you to complete a form? I probably didn't. There's a form from day one on the announcements. I need y'all to complete that. It's just a student information sheet. I just do it online now, so it's easier. All right. All right. Nick's got that. Anybody else want to try it? Is anyone trying it? Just to see? Because I mean, that's 2 days in a row. That's kind of weird. Or maybe people are just done by the end of the day. Maybe they're just like, you know what? I've had enough. Is anyone volunteering to try it? Cool. We'll just see what you find. Watch me have put it in the wrong link or something, and like there's like 10 kids been trying to get in each day, and I've just been ignoring them. That's definitely a possibility. Oh, we're gonna watch some Schoolhouse Rock. I hope you're excited. We're gonna watch a thing about the Bill of Rights. We're gonna watch a thing about the government. It's the Crash Course, but most kids tell me they don't like this guy because it's not the regular guy. I don't know. I don't know these guys. I don't know, but they don't like him. So I'm sorry. But yeah. I'm going to continue recording. I'm going to do screen share, and we're going to watch this together. I realize that we actually can watch videos through this, and they actually play right decent with the screen share, and the volume isn't awful. So let's watch this. It's a mom video. They'll get on point in a minute. It's not just about circles.
show, and no one's job is more important. The audience is kind of like the country, you know, keeping an eye on their performance. Bring one executive to his legislative act Congress. Bring free judiciary. See, it's kind of like my circus. My circus is gonna have a clean circus away. Who say it's a fine one, son? But until I get it, I'll do my thing. With government, it's got free.
Okay, so I didn't really give y'all any information before I played that video, but basically we're just going over those first things you probably would cover in like a basic history class, most likely more like civics and economics. It's important that you understand this stuff. With this being such a split class, some of you might be underclassmen, some of you might be, I completely just lost my train of thought, upperclassmen. You may have gone over this your sophomore year, maybe you haven't gone over this yet, so I want to make sure we're reviewing all of these things. So basically we're going to the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, things like that, just so you have a good understanding on that before we go and enter this first section, because without it, you'll be a little lost. I expect you all to basically know these things, and that's why I just played these short little videos, because you should have a pretty good grasp on everything. This is the best Bill of Rights video I found. There's a couple things I'll probably address at the end. I always forget what they are until I watch it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't like that. So just bear with me, and we'll go over this Bill of Rights video.
The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified or passed over 200 years ago. But even though they're a bit, well, old, these first 10 amendments are still the most debated and discussed section of our Constitution today. So can you remember what they are? Let's take a look. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This may be the most revered of the amendments. The First Amendment protects our rights to say and write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition our government if we feel the need. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property. The Third Amendment is called the Quartering Amendment. It was written in response to the British occupation and as a result of colonists having to house or quarter soldiers in their homes during the American Revolution. Because of this amendment, our government can never force us to house soldiers in our home. The Fourth Amendment is the right to search and seizure. The police can't come into our home without a search warrant and take our personal property. Today, many concerns have arisen about our rights to privacy and technology. For example, can the government track your location with your smartphone, or can social media postings such as on Facebook and Twitter be used without a warrant? On to the Fifth. It's all about due process. You've probably heard the phrase, "I plead the Fifth," in movies or on TV. We're talking about the Fifth Amendment, which says that you don't have to take the witness stand against yourself if you may end up incriminating yourself. Okay, we're halfway done. The Sixth and Seventh Amendments are about how the legal system works. If you're accused of a crime, you have the right to a speedy public trial and an impartial jury. You also have the right to a lawyer and the right to take the stand if you choose. This is important because it will prevent the accused from sitting in prison forever and insist that the prosecution proceed with undue delay. The Seventh says you have the right to a jury trial where 12 impartial peers decide your innocence or guilt in the courtroom as opposed to a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is the death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree on a definition of cruel and unusual. The Ninth and Tenth Amendments are called the non-rights amendments. They say that the rights not listed in the Bill of Rights are retained by the people in the state. You have other rights that are not listed in the Constitution, and the states have the right to make their own policies, like instituting state taxes. So, now you know all 10 amendments. Can you remember them all? If not, remember this. The Bill of Rights are a crucial piece of American history, and though society
Nick is good real quick. Nick, are you good? You in? There's a little thing where people are at. I'm gonna assume you can see us, Nick. Cool. All right. Bill of Rights video. Like I said, a few things. I don't. They started to try and interpret it and in their own way, and I really just wanted them to say it, but you know, they started interpreting things. Second Amendment, for instance, they started saying what it means today. That isn't how it works. The Bill of Rights says what it says. It is what it is. You can't start interpreting it. That's the government's job to interpret the Bill of Rights. It's not. This video isn't supposed to go in here and start interpreting it the way they want to. So, yes, and the original purpose of the Second Amendment was to protect citizens from tyranny, such as the government. That's what it is. That's what it says. I'm only giving you what it's supposed to say. I'm not going to interpret it. I'm not giving you my political opinion. I'm telling you what it says. Okay. Also, like, they did a better job with the Quartering Act. They literally just said you can't have soldiers, and the government now cannot make you house a soldier. So things like that. That's basically what we wanted to go over. The search and seizure stuff was good. Obviously, they have to go get a warrant before they can arrest you. So this one's a tad bit longer. And like I said, how many people know what is it called? Crash Course? People watch Crash Course before? There's a guy. Y'all know who the guy is? I don't know who the guy is. No one knows who the guy is. I don't know. I don't know who the guy is. I don't know what's going on. More people are trying to do stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay. Here we go.
We are being censored. American news
Are we?
no longer provides truth. And
Okay,
Josh,
goodbye.
Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics. As fans of our series know, here at Crash Course, we believe in hierarchy.
Craig.
First at the top, you got me. Then there's John Green, and Stan, and Brandon,
People like
and
John
Delia,
Green, is that
and a bunch of
right?
independent
Like John
contractors.
Green.
Wait, I'm an independent contractor. Well, I'm still at the top. Anyway, then the rest of it's turtles all the way down, except at the bottom. There's an eagle. Anyway, it's the strict adherence to hierarchy that makes TCHQ run like a well-oiled machine. The same can be said for the U.S. court system. As you probably remember, if you're a smart rememberer of things, the American court system is hierarchical, which means any discussion of it cries out for visual representation. Thought bubble, like Drake, will start from the bottom. The trial courts have original jurisdiction. When you realize that there are 50 states, each with its own court system, you shouldn't be surprised that the vast majority of cases start out in state courts. Of course, most cases never get to court at all. The vast majority of disputes, criminal and civil, are settled outside of court. How is that for efficiency? On the federal side, the trial courts are the U.S. District Court. There are 94 of them with 663 judges, more or less. Sometimes in civil cases, the plaintiff, the person bringing the case, will have a choice about whether to bring that case in state or federal court. You can only start in the district courts if your case meets certain important criteria. Almost all criminal cases start in state court. So if you don't like the result in the trial court, and you have a reasonable claim that there was something procedurally wrong with the case or the way the law was applied, you can bring an appeal. Notice that if you start in state courts, you usually have more chances for appeals because most states have 2 levels of appellate court, and the federal system has 1. Appeals courts can refuse to hear appeals, and if they do, you're done. One thing to remember, the loser can always try to appeal, even if that loser was the state that failed in its prosecution. Federal appeals courts are called circuit courts, and there are 12 of them distributed regionally throughout the U.S. You might guess that the region where your case is heard matters, and you'll be right. Judges in the Ninth Circuit, which includes California and Oregon, tend to be more liberal than judges in the Fifth Circuit. Federal appeals are usually heard by panels of 3 judges, while trials in the district court are before a single judge. There are 4 scenarios where the federal courts have original jurisdiction, and in all cases, they must be brought in a district court. They are cases where the law at issue is a federal law, like a claim against Obamacare. Cases involving treaties, which are by definition federal laws. These are pretty rare and really interesting. Cases involving the U.S. Constitution, for example, a case concerning freedom of religion, and cases where the U.S. government is a party to the litigation. The other type of case that can go into federal court is one involving more than one state where there's more than $70,000 at issue. This makes sense because if the parties in dispute are in different states, they might not even agree where to have the trial, and federal judges are supposed to be more impartial than state judges. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So thoughtful, so bubbly. If you read the news and pay attention to legal cases, most of what you see are lower court decisions. at least until the spring when the Supreme Court starts handing down decisions. These are the ones that tend to make it into the history books and that you may have even heard of. But how did the case get to the Supreme Court, Craig? Well, I will answer that one. That's my job. Most of the time, the Supreme Court has appellate jurisdiction. In fact, it's the final court of appeals. If you lose there, you really lost. When the court hears a case, it's called judicial review. There are, however, circumstances when the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction and can act like a trial court. So it's a good thing that most of the justices are, in fact, lawyers, although there's no constitutional requirement that they need to be. The court has original jurisdiction in cases between the U.S. and a state, cases between two or more states, cases involving foreign ministers or ambassadors, and cases brought by citizens of one state against citizens of another state or against a foreign country. What do these cases have in common? The main thing is that you can't imagine there being a single state where they could happen. This is especially true in cases involving foreign officials. And then there are my favorite Supreme Court cases, crimes committed on the high seas. That's right, the Supreme Court can exercise original jurisdiction over pirates. This is not as weird as it sounds because crimes on the high seas, by definition, have not happened in any state. So where are you going to have the trial? Most of the time, cases that make it to the Supreme Court are there on appeal. In order for the court to exercise its appellate jurisdiction, the case must raise a federal question. For example, one involving due process or equal protection or an important federal statute. You don't know what those terms mean, don't worry. We'll get to this. Here's the thing, though. The Supreme Court doesn't hear a lot of cases. It doesn't want to. And I don't want to either. I understand. They also can't. And it's not just because most of the justices are kind of old. It's because there are only 9 of them, and they get requests to review about 8,000 cases a year. Out of these, they actually hand down about 80 decisions. So they have decision rules to weed out the cases that they don't want to hear. The first one is that there has to be a case or controversy, which means that you can't request the court to review whether or not a law is unconstitutional before it has gone into effect. There has to be an actual injury first. Another way of saying this is that the Supreme Court will not issue advisory opinions, speculating on whether or not a law might violate the Constitution. The second hurdle a potential Supreme Court litigant has to get over is called standing. Oh, that sounds terrible. I wouldn't want to be standing. No, this means that in order to bring a case, the parties must have a substantial stake in the outcome, which usually means an actual injury. Lack of standing is one reason that the court has refused cases about same-sex marriage brought by opposite-sex married people. The court will also refuse to hear a case that is moot. Mootness, which is a real word, I promise, I'm reading it on the teleprompter, means that the case no longer requires a resolution, say because one of the parties is dead. The flip side of mootness is ripeness. If a potential injury has yet to occur, the case is not ripe. It's a hard avocado. Your guacamole. It's best not to be too anxious about bringing your case. Most of the time you can wait, except in cases like Bush v. Gore, where we kind of needed an outcome so a new president could move into the White House. There's also a vague decision rule called the political question doctrine. In some cases, the court would rather that the executive or legislative branch handle the issue and not get involved. There are certain cases that the court will almost always take, even though all things being equal, they'd rather not. When the circuit courts have reached different or conflicting conclusions on the same issue, what's known as a circuit split, the court will usually hear the case to resolve the confusion. The court will also almost always hear a case where the federal government itself initiated the appeal. Finally, the Supreme Court will usually take a case that has a clear constitutional question, like one involving freedom of speech or religion, although there are sometimes constitutional issues that they feel are settled or they just don't want to deal with. For a long time, for example, the court didn't hear gun control cases, and nowadays they don't usually take obscenity cases. Okay, so that's the structure of the court system and how a case does, or usually doesn't, make it to the Supreme Court. What we haven't really discussed is what happens when a case does make it to the Supreme Court. We'll show you that next time when we take a shortcut to the Supreme Court by suing the ambassador to Switzerland for making such delicious chocolate. Thanks for watching. See you next time. We're not advocating food. Crash Course Government and Politics is produced in association with CBS.
Thanks, bro. So anyway, that was just a quick little overview of how the Supreme Court works. That one we are going to dive a little bit more into. We're going to watch Gideon's Trumpet. I'm sure none of you have heard of it or watched it. It is an old movie. It is in color. I think it's barely in color, but it is in color. So we're going to watch that. And the cool thing is, even if you are at home watching it, which, like I said, I think y'all will be here. If you are at home, your assignment for that day is to watch a movie. So it's pretty good, right? Especially at the end of the day. So we're going to go to that, and then the only other thing we're going to do is go over, I think this one. This is preamble. So we're going to go over this real quick, and then we'll start on the actual notes. And we'll discuss these videos a tad bit. Sound good? It's only 3 minutes. Sound.
In 1787, I'm told our founding fathers did agree to write a list of founding fathers set out to do. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty, to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. In 1787, I'm told our founding fathers all sat down and wrote a list of principles that's known the world around. The USA was just starting out a whole brand new country, and so our people spelled it out. They wanted a land of liberty, and the preamble goes like this. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty, to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, for the United States of America.
Y'all are welcome, because I know it's going to be in your head for the rest of the day. You can thank me tomorrow after you sang it all day. All right. I really want to watch No More Kings, but I guess we won't watch that one. It's okay. So, anyway, I just wanted to go over those main things. Basically, want to give you that intro, like I said, to all the things we're going over, and we are now going to move into the notes section. So, if you come to the announcements at home or in here, you see day 2, went over the YouTube video, and now we're going to go to the 1.01 notes. There will be a place in the assignments to submit the fill in the blank notes. I don't know if I have put those up yet or not. Let me see. I might not have done it. Oh, I did. Look at me. So there's the fill in the blank notes. You can find them there. Like I said, y'all can get out your laptops, devices, whatever you have. You're welcome to go get on the computer if you really want to. Does not matter to me. But you're going to fill out these fill in the blank notes as I go over this PowerPoint here. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And I'm going to pull up. Yeah, we'll go over that next time. All right. This up. Now I'll screen share it in. Make sure I'm good. Cool. It's only 10 slides, so it's really not that bad. And that's probably all we're going to do today. There is an assignment we can start on, but if you don't finish today, it's fine. You can just kind of go look over it. Do whatever you feel you need to do. I'm not too worried about it. We've already got a good amount done for day 1. Oh, goodness, that's quick. All right, so we're going to go over understanding ethics, source of law, and the legal system. So we're discussing all those things. I showed you at the beginning of this PowerPoint yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of went over the beginning of it for you. So, has everybody got the notes up at this point? If you need a few more minutes, that's fine. If you ever feel like you really need a printed copy of them, just let me know. I can do that, or you're welcome to print them at home. We can print them in here, it doesn't matter. Just let me know. I mean, you should be fine. because then you'll have them all, and you honestly have the PowerPoints. This is just to keep you honest and make sure you're kind of following along. But like I said, not every time will I even require you to turn these in. They'll just be to follow. They're fill in the blank. They're easy. They're simple. Don't ever think of anything. All right. Y'all ready? If you're not, you can kind of catch up. So, ethics. Rules used to determine the difference between right and wrong. The origin of ethics comes from the greatest good and the golden rule. Examines whether action will cause the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you follow the golden rule in life, you'll be very happy and things will usually turn out pretty good. If you treat people the way you want to be treated, you'll be fine. But that's just a life lesson. What you need to understand is that our country functions under the greatest good. When they make laws and they don't seem like they benefit you, it might be because they're trying to make sure it benefits the greatest amount of people. Does that make sense? When they made child labor laws back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that definitely didn't seem like it benefited businesses who were paying those children small wages, but it definitely benefited the children and it benefited generations to come. It benefits you now because now you're not working in a factory at 9 and 10 years old before you even got to high school and possibly getting injured and getting paid a very low income and working odd hours of the day and night. So things like that, it didn't benefit one group, but it benefited the majority of people. It benefited the future. That's kind of the part of the law that we are going to look at here. We're understanding that's how our country works. Consequential ethical reasoning. So alternative ways to change the current situation. Evaluates each alternative and finds the greatest good. Again, like I just said, finding that greatest good. Rule-based ethical reasoning. So fundamental ethical rule. Either a recognized authority or human reasoning, acts themselves are judged as right or wrong. So this isn't necessarily seeing things as right or wrong, or excuse me, this isn't seeing things as, well, this may be wrong, but it's going to help more people. This is saying that there's a rule, and we follow that rule. If it says this is wrong, then we don't do it. If it says this is right, then we do it. Ethics as reflected in the U.S. laws and the U.S. Constitution laws are judged to be right or good when they affect the majority of people in a positive manner. I just told you that's how the U.S. Constitution works. That's how our government functions. It's supposed to help the people the most, or the most amount of people. All right. So this is our source of law, the Constitution. Principles by which its government operates, adopted or amended. Constitutional law is made when the court interprets it. The United States Constitution is the main instrument of allocating powers between the people and their government, Bill of Rights. That's a lot of what our, government and laws, what they're revolved around is the people and the government. You go to other countries and some of the laws are meant only for the government. They're what the government can and can't do. Whereas in our country, we have certain rights. We have rights that the government gives us. They even have rights that they give the states because they don't want to interpret those rights. Does that make sense? Like we talked about in the Bill of Rights video. If there's rights not mentioned in the Constitution, then it goes to the states, and the states can decide. State constitutional sovereignty, so powers between the federal and state government. The 10th Amendment acknowledges the sovereignty for all states to govern their citizens with their respective borders. So within North Carolina, we can kind of make our laws how we want. We can move on, and we don't have to deal with people from South Carolina, Virginia, or Tennessee and how they do their laws. Does that make sense? Now, a lot of times they come together and they make laws that make sense, when it comes to, well, on the opposite end of that, where South Carolina, you can go buy the fireworks you want that'll shoot up in the air, and North Carolina, you can't. So that's one example. So, but then there are examples where your voting license, for instance, works throughout different states unless you're there for over so many days. Your driver's license works in other states, things like that. So there's some things that kind of work together in states, and sometimes they have laws that don't work together. So the source of law, our big thing was English common law, result of custom-based law being unified by the courts in England. Obviously, if you didn't realize it till now, we were a colony of England, so most of our laws are going to come from, you guessed it, England. We just changed them up a little bit. Statutory law, active legislation that declares, prescribes, commands something, specific law expressing in writing. Local statutes or laws are usually called ordinances. Case law, this is one thing that the United States loves, and we use it a lot. Based on an appeal cases, appellate courts issue a ruling based on their decision. New rules in deciding the appeal case set precedents for similar future cases. So let's say a law doesn't necessarily give us 100% answer on the situation. Well, then you take it to court, and then the court decides on it. Well, then from here on out, now the good thing is we know what that decision is. If that situation is, that's what case law is. It's using those old cases to go back and look at what you're doing. Administrative law, body rules created by the government agencies, for instance, the Federal Communications Commission. So basically, administrations can make laws. Those could be the FDA, what's another one? I just lost my train of thought. The Department of Homeland Security. They can make some laws basically that'll come out to help with their specific thing. Now they can't go make laws on things that they have no idea about. They can't make food laws if they're in the Homeland Security Department. So it's just based off of what their department is. As we learned in our Schoolhouse Rock video, there are checks and balances, and there's 3 rings of government. You have your legislative, your executive, and your judicial. Legislative obviously makes the laws. The executive branch enforces those laws, and they consist of the president and vice president. And the president is basically the head of the military in our country. Judicial branch consists of the U.S. Supreme Court, decides on the constitutionality of any statute passed by the legislative branch, may decide if an action or decision by the executive branch exceeds the powers granted under the Constitution. If so, this action or decision is void. So just like where the president can veto legislature, judicial branch can come back and say, no, that's not right either. You're going outside of your authority in that sense. Just like if a president started making too many executive orders, the judicial branch could come in and work with that. There's all the checks and balances there. So federal enforcement agencies. So you've got the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're going to go over and have some videos on all of these branches as well, but we're just going to go over really quickly today. Mission is to uphold the law through the investigation of violations of federal criminal statutes. Notice the word federal. That's very important. It's Federal Bureau of Investigation. Divided into 5 functional areas: criminal law enforcement, foreign counterintelligence, investigative and operational support, law enforcement services, and direct control administration. While we also have the United States Marshal Service, and they are a federal program as well, but they apprehend federal fugitives. So think of this more as your detectives. They're investigating. That doesn't mean they don't arrest people, right? You've seen on detective TV shows, they can arrest someone, right? So these are your detectives more like, they kind of investigate things. That doesn't mean they don't arrest people. Your United States Marshal Service are people that actually go out and really go after them and find them. They're kind of more of your police force for the whole United States. So they protect the federal judiciary, so they're actually protecting them. They protect witness, the witness protection program. They're involved with that, so they operate the witness security program. Transport federal prisoners. So if you've got a federal prisoner going all the way from, here in North Carolina to Washington, D.C., or going from California to Washington, D.C., there are people who are going to do that. Seize property and acquire property acquired by criminals through illegal activities. All this is more federal, so just make sure you're understanding that. Federal enforcement agencies continued. You've got the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, enforce and control substance laws and regulations of the United States, brings forward organizations and principal members of organizations involving in the growing manufacturing or distribution of controlled substances. So when you get into all that drug trafficking that may go down, sometimes south of the border, or if you've got stuff kind of trying to be flown in from other countries, they're going to be involved in that. They're a lot of times working in the airports, trying to make sure that drugs are going to get there. There might be, an area where they realize there's a lot of illegal drugs being sold, so they'll come in and again they can arrest people if needed. They bring them in. You've also got the Department of Homeland Security. I talked about they prevent terrorist attacks within the United States. They reduce the vulnerability of the United States to terrorism. So a lot of times they might review a building, a building in Washington D.C. and think about how some ways we can up security in here to make sure that no one's coming in and committing a terrorist attack. Minimize the damage and assist with the recovery from terrorist attacks that occur within the U.S. There's going to be a question on your final exam, 100% guarantee it. Is going to be asking you about investigating a terrorist attack. That's going to be the FBI as much as you may think it's Homeland Security. I'm pretty sure. It's a weird question. I don't like it. I wish they'd take it out, but it is what it is. This test's been the same for like 10 years or something, so they're not changing it. So whenever we go by that one, we'll go over it a couple of times to make sure you understand what they're asking for. It's a bad question. I don't like it. It's made to trick you, so just remember that, but just want to give you a heads up. And it'll probably be on your first exam because you'll just get pulled into that thing. So state and local agencies, North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation is the same as the FBI, it's just your SBI. So Division of the NC Department of Justice assists local law enforcement within criminal investigation. North Carolina State Highway Patrol reduce collisions and make highways as safe as possible. Active patrol and enforcement of NC state statutes and laws for motor vehicle violations. Obviously, when you go get on the interstate, if you're ever going to Raleigh from here, you'll probably see a lot of highway patrol because they are patrolling the highway. Imagine that. So that's basically all you need to know about them. You've got the NC Sheriff Department. This is the kind of cool thing. How this works is where the Sheriff's Department is all of the county. It's the entire county. Includes Greenville and everywhere else outside of Greenville that is in Pitt County. While your police department, the Greenville Police Department, the GPD, is just inside Greenville and 5 miles out, if I'm not mistaken. That's on PowerPoint or not. So responsible for the courts of the state. So they also act as the bailiffs, acting as the bailiff and marshal, administrator, executive, criminal, and civil justice, and acts as ex officio detention officer for the jail. So if you go to jail, hopefully y'all ever go to jail. The people who will be in the jail, kind of being the officials there, will be the NC Sheriff Department if it's in Pitt County, obviously. It would be the Pitt County Sheriff Department if you're in Pitt County. And then police departments within the corporate limits of their city or jurisdiction. And, 1 mile. That's my bad. These limits. So they can go to Greenville, and then they can go 1 mile out if they're chasing someone. Obviously, if they're chasing a criminal, they could probably keep going, but hopefully they've been in contact with the NC Sheriff Department, and they're going to help detain the criminals. And if the person starts going towards, the edge of Pitt County, you start talking to people who maybe they're going to Greene County. They're going to get contact with the Sheriff's Department of Greene. That's just how it works. They all kind of work together. And if the highway patrol's out there and they see it, they might get involved as well. They kind of all help each other out. And that is it. So, not bad, right? We have some law rules throughout the year. Yeah, I got you. 2 and 3. Sorry, I moved a little fast through them. All right, so which one do you need? Gotcha. Yep. And if you're at home watching this and going through it after I've recorded it and posted it, the PowerPoint's up there so you can go back and get whatever you need. So no worries on that. Awesome. So that's our first PowerPoint. See, I made the fill in the blank notes. This is what the notes used to be. Wouldn't that suck? Could be a whole lot worse. Just saying. Okay, so moving on, we are going to take a quiz, but it's not really a quiz. It's just in there as a quiz. So no worries. If you go to, where's my mouse? There it is. If you go to assignments, make sure you do turn in those 1.01 notes. They're right here. And then you can go to your quiz and do the 1.01 activity 1. So it's really just a quiz. It has multiple attempts. So it's not that hard. You can use your notes. And I'm pretty sure it's 10 questions, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's true or false. And like I said, oh, I've only got attempts 4 right now, but if you need more attempts, just let me know. I'll give you more. Sound good? It's not that big of a deal. Wow, we kind of flew by today. We've only got 30 minutes left. Well, I don't want to start anything else because that's all I've assigned for today. I'm pretty sure. Let me go back to the announcements, make sure we've gotten done everything we need to in class. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's all we're gonna do today. Is we're just going to go to the assignments, and like I said, it's in the quiz section, and it's 1.01. Let me make sure that the module is open for you. Yeah, she's open. So there's the objectives. You don't really have to look over that. And there's key terms if you need those, and key concepts. But the main thing you're looking at right now is this quiz 1.01 activity 1. And again, it's not that hard. If you're using your notes, it should be pretty simple. And if you get one wrong, just go ahead and redo it. I don't know how you would need more than 3 or 4 attempts, but you do you. If you need it, just let me know. All right. Any questions before I just kind of let y'all go for the day? Y'all good? Anyone on Zoom I didn't know about, which I would have had to let you in, but kind of is what it is at this point. Oh, I never turned my video on. Sorry, Nick. Well, Nick never said anything, so I hope you enjoyed the class, Nick, but I'm going to leave now, and like I said, if you really need me, please email me, all that good stuff. Nick, if you do need to talk to me, just email me or whatever. Let me know. If you want me to get back on, I will. But yeah, that's it. So, adios, people online.